Good morning, Natasha, and welcome to Voice Notes from the Organized Homeschool. I'm so excited to have you and to chat with you and to learn about you and all the amazing things you're doing with your child. Let's get started and share with me and anyone who will get the opportunity to listen just a little bit more about you and your homeschool, maybe how long you've been homeschooling, how many children you have, ages, anything you want to let us know to get to know you. Can't wait to dive in, but let's start here.
Good morning, and thank you so much. I only have one son. His name is Kalehl. He just turned 12, and this is our 6th year of homeschooling. He is funny, kind, intelligent, and autistic. Our journey to homeschooling just happened. It wasn't our original plan. However, we are learning alongside one another and being intentional about what he needs in all aspects of his life. It is definitely an adventure. I joke that I am his teacher, therapist, lunch lady, and nurse, and my husband is the principal, treasurer, bus driver, and event coordinator for all of our field trips. We work together to make this happen, and we are really excited to see what grade 7 brings.
Oh my gosh, this is hilarious because we say the same exact thing to the point where my son, anytime he has a need for a band aid or falls and hurts himself or something, he's 5, so it happens. I need nurse mommy anytime we're getting ready to do a formal sit down table lesson. I need teacher mommy or your teacher mommy now. So we do the same exact thing, and he literally calls me nurse mommy, teacher mommy. I have not introduced to him lunch ladies. So funny. All the things. And I love that your husband plays a role in this as well. But I would love to hear, like, we're talking about all the things, and it can become a lot, right? Like, parenthood is already a lot. We now are adding on educating our children. What's been a challenge for you for organizing all the things, and how did you overcome it, or how are you currently working towards overcoming it?
During this homeschooling journey, we absolutely wear different hats. One of my challenges has been because he is limited in language and a Gestalt language processor. This means that he takes phrases from what he's previously heard or scripts from movies and media, shows and books to convey thoughts and express himself. I understand him and I understand the message behind the phrases, but other people on the outside would think that he is simply quoting a movie. I have to be very intentional about creating activities that can help me gauge whether he is understanding and absorbing each topic. So instead of asking him to recall an entire paragraph or to summarize it back to me, I have to read the material aloud and then I have to ask him specific yes or no questions to make it easier for him. Balancing academics and life skills was also a challenge. I want him to be reading and growing in different academics, but I also have to be mindful about prioritizing and tackling life skills. And so we really had to help him overcome his meltdowns, shutdowns, overstimulation, self harm, and grow his toileting skills, identifying his emotions, feeding challenges, choking incidents, and just learning how to help one another grow. Because of this, oftentimes academics was put on the back burner. I'm sure our homeschooling day looks completely different than what you would expect a typical homeschool day to look like for most families. We had to really work on communication, self expression, build up his sensory diet, and implement tools to help him manage those big emotions. And I have to create a lot of accommodations. I have to modify things and work on meditation and positive affirmations to help calm his nervous system and to help him better understand himself and how to express his needs in those big moments. What about you? How long have you been homeschooling and what is your biggest challenge? I'd love to know.
Yes. So thank you for sharing. That is like paints a good picture of all the stuff that you are doing with your son. And I just want to shout you out for doing such an amazing job with balancing the academics and giving him the support, the accommodations, the modifications he needs. Because as a former special education teacher and having been in school leadership, I saw and supported other special education teachers. Even with one child, it is a balancing act. It is a like skill you develop. There's like a lot of learning that comes along with it. When you are working with a child who has needs that are air quotes not typical. What is typical? What is normal? I don't even like those words, but you become really good at figuring out what their needs are and doing what's right for them, versus if you're working with a child who's more typical, you might be more likely to just follow the curriculum and not tune in as much to what they need and desire. So you are superwoman no matter what, but being able to do that and balance those pieces are really good. So I would love to, I'm going to answer your question, but let me answer your question first. This is my first year homeschooling. My son is 5 and will be 6 soon. We finished up kindergarten and I have a 1-year-old as well. So I did that with the baby being brand new and growing into a toddler. That was one challenge that I feel like is going to stay around for a while. So I was a new mom of 2 and I still have a business on the side, balanced in a different way than what you're sharing, but that was one of my biggest challenges. I had to let some clients go because I was like, I can't do all this. I ended up having a babysitter come every Tuesday, so started to implement some like tactical things to help me balance the two. But yeah, thanks for asking that. That is where I'm at. We actually are working through our babysitter moving, so I don't know what that's gonna look like. That balance piece is gonna probably forever be a thing. But can you take us to a moment where that challenge felt particularly tough? I want to balance the academics, but I also know I have to give them true life skills. How did you work through the mindset there? How did you work through getting to a good place with that? I'd love to hear if there's a particular story that comes to mind or just overall. But I just feel like there are probably a lot of moms out there, even if they're not homeschooling, feeling this pressure similar to what you described. And I feel like you could be inspiration, motivation, support for them. And I'd love to hear more about a moment or overall. What does it look like for you? What are you thinking to yourself? I heard you say positive affirmations and things like that. Are there things that you're reminding yourself? Are there things that you're actually doing to find a good balance so that he is getting the skills he needs in both academics and life skills?
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Congratulations on completing your first year. That is very challenging to have a business and a newborn, and I bet it was a lot and very overstimulating. I'm always impressed by parents who have multiples and they are able to balance all of their needs, their levels, their personalities. I hope things work out with finding a sitter. Honestly, I would say that the first few years was just continuous moments like that. His meltdowns were huge. And with that came shutdown and overstimulation. And they were just like different levels of his nervous system crashing. And it just didn't make sense to pull out books. It made more sense to tackle his whole self, to put the academics away, to stop him from hurting himself with self harm or aggression. In those times, it was because mainly that he didn't have the communication skills to express what he wanted and what he didn't want. And we were still learning each other. Now we speak a language, and most people might not understand his language. It's still limited and considered to be not so functional. He can express his needs, but emergency situations, asking questions, that kind of thing. To stop the self-harm pattern, I had to implement a 10-minute meditation and positive affirmation thing that we would do. I would literally take him into the dark room and sit crisscross applesauce, play rain sounds, and just say positive affirmations. I am smart. I am kind. I'm having a bad moment, but I am not bad. And this is not a bad day. I can do my 10 minutes of meditation, take deep breaths, and find strategies that work for me. And once I leave this room, it's forgotten, and that helped us. 1 year, we must have meditated for 80 minutes. And I would only do that when it got so bad that he would resort to harming himself. And that took a lot out of me. I was very sad during that time because I was in the thick of it. I didn't even know if my strategies were working. It just seemed to be getting worse and worse until one time it just slowed down. He went to harm himself, and he put two and two together. If I do this, then I will have a mandatory 10 minutes of positive affirmation. And he was probably thinking, I spent my entire summer in this room doing positive affirmations. And so he decided that he was going to use his strategies instead. And his strategies were pretty much things that I outlined. Before you get to this point, these are the items that you can ask for to self-advocate. You can ask for slime, Play-Doh, to bounce, to spin, to swing, listen to soothing music, ask for a hug, ask me for help. We have a long list of strategies that he can choose from so he doesn't have to resort to being frustrated or harming. We used illustrated children's books as our curriculum for the first few years. This was to teach him emotional regulation. Academics was put on the back burner, and we would take these illustrated children's books. We would read them. I would point everything out. We would try to resonate with the character, think about what is going to happen, predict, and talk about what should happen or what the character should have done differently or what we would have done differently. We were essentially using them as social stories. This helped him better understand himself, his own emotions, and understand that other people have big emotions and how they work through them. Or if they didn't work through them in an appropriate way, would you suggest specific strategies to help them? He got to feel as though he is similar to other people, and that really helped. We also made art projects for each of them so that he could express himself through art. And that helped him to identify the connection of what he's reading and what he is creating, his creativity, his imagination. We talked about grocery stores, and we would go to the grocery store. During this time, he was working through his selective mutism. So I would have him speak to the people in the front, the baggers, and he gained confidence little by little. These books were helpful in creating our own style. And since then, nothing has really changed. We are still using illustrated children's books as the foundation of all of our unit studies. Rather than doing several books for each subject, I am incorporating 5 to 10 illustrated children's books across various levels to talk about one subject. So if we are talking about fruits, I will have books about fruits, bees, pollination, the fruits and vegetables that they may pollinate. Then that will bring us to books about the grocery store, how it gets from farm to table. And then we would cook together. We would watch cooking shows, videos, documentaries, and then go to a grocery store and make a grocery list and go to a farmer's market to see what some farmers has grown. I think over the years, I've come to understand his needs and understands how he needs a overall look when it comes to understanding topics. It can't just be singular topics. It has to be very robust. And our units now last 3 months so that he can feel really immersed in that topic and retain the information that he is learning. And all of the information are always going to be based on real life, things that he will experience, life skills. For every strategy that we implemented, I was alongside with him. So he was not alone. And we practiced those affirmations and we did those meditations together each and every single time. It required me to stop everything I was doing at any given moment to provide him with what he needed and trying to understand the function of the behavior, because he is just a kind and funny soul. And he is so sweet, but he's also deeply sensitive. And he can feel as though maybe he has done something wrong. But reality is that he is still learning himself and he needs to learn how to process these things. He needs my assistance in pointing them out and in finding tools to help him identify what he's experiencing and then implementing those tools. So I was always there to support him during the process. The guilt was definitely a lot. It was weighing me down. Had we even done anything that year? Where were we going to go? Did I make the right decision? Did I pull him out only to cause more aggravation? What is happening? That really stuck with me. During that time, my husband was the one that had to talk me through the process. He was just kind of, be for real. Look how far he has come implementing tools that you're teaching him. Look at him recognizing his own emotion and communicating what he wants. And he was seeing all the things that I wasn't. Yes, I could see the changes and I could see that he was growing and getting better and better. But when you're in the thick of it and you are the teacher, really getting the end of those behaviors, it can be jarring because there's no real clean line between mom and teacher. You just mesh into this one person. And sometimes that might not be the person they want to see. Sometimes he just did not want to do things. Those academics could be put on the back burner for some time, but learning to regulate your emotions and being a productive person and caring for yourself in a loving way would never be put on the back burner. So I had to really stop my mind from going to a place where maybe we won't reach this academic level. He's not on grade level. He's going to be behind. I had to remove that from my brain and really see his growth. And then I had to stop myself and start celebrating what we've done together, what he's done. We were going to slowly implement tiny bits of academics, and slowly we have worked it up higher and higher until we are here now. And he is rocking class every day and he's doing such a great job. He is just such a pleasant student. As I look back on all the hard work we've done, obviously now I know that all those tools have carried him through and they have worked. But in the moment, I doubted myself.
Natasha, you are amazing. Thank you for your transparency, your honesty, especially the last piece that you were saying in terms of how you were feeling and how it was hard for you and there was doubt and probably frustration. I get it because I was a special education teacher. My first year teaching, and then I went into general education because I had a special education background. The students who I had in my special education class came with me to my general education classroom. So I taught them for 3 years as a school leader too, supporting all the children in the school. I just know it can be really difficult to learn how to best support every child. And I know he's your son, so you're going to do it no matter what. And you would hope teachers would too, but that doesn't take away the very human part of it that you are starting to get into. It still can feel hard. You started to describe, and I would love to hear more about what does it look like now. You started to get into a little bit of like how far you've come, but I just want to celebrate you and give you opportunity definitely to share that too, because you mentioned starting to celebrate yourself, and I'm glad that you did that because it can be hard when it's day in and day out. You don't look up from, it's hard to see the forest through the trees, right? Having your husband is amazing. Shout out to him for highlighting all of the great things you were doing and helping you to see some of the forest through the trees. What I mean by that is like when you're in it, all you can see is the trees. You can't see the big picture of how much growth has happened and all the great things that are happening. You just see, wow, we just stayed in this room for 80 minutes because he was having a challenging time. And what you might not recognize is that it was happening every day and now it's only happening 4 times a week or something like that. It's hard to see that when you're in it every single day. And I'm just proud of you for sticking with it and all that. So, one, I want you to definitely share with us how things are going now. I also, as you were listing off your strategies that you went through, like that you have for your son and now that he uses at the ready versus some of the behaviors that you didn't want him to do. So as you were listing those strategies, and then as you were sharing, here's what our curriculum is. We were using children's books, we're doing unit studies, we're taking trips, we're giving him opportunity to practice communication, all of that. Where did you learn all that? How did you learn all that? Was it like you did research and you figured this out? Did you have professionals that you were consulting that gave you different tips and things to do? Was it trial and error? How did you learn all those things? So definitely tell us what homeschool looks like now, and then tell us how you learned all those things, because I know there's someone who's, I need to do something like this, but I don't even know. This podcast and what you just shared is a huge first step and good place to start. If there's any other resources or ways in which you might share that you did that others can learn from, that's awesome. Oh, before you share that, I just remembered something else I wanted to say. You putting academics to the for lack of a better way of saying this, I don't mean this in a negative way, but to the back burner, like on hold. You put academics on hold so that you could address your son's needs to be safe and to be able to communicate and to get his basic needs met. I can imagine that was extremely hard. It made me think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which says that we as humans need our basic needs met before we can do anything extra. And as much as we and society right now, like learning to read and write and do math and all the things and learning about, I, I don't know, like plants and learning about random things, as much as we feel like that is a basic need, it's actually not. It's a made up construct. And it's just so normal to us that it feels like our basic needs, we are, at the end of the day, we're animals. We need to be safe, fed, and able to like live, period. And so your son and anyone, we're not going to be able to learn and do extra if we don't feel safe, if we don't have shelter, food, water, and the things we need. It's impossible. And so I just made me think of that. And just got more affirmation because I'm very impressed and excited for you and your son and your homeschooling journey, because there is definitely a school and multiple schools where if he were to attend that, he would have gotten his basic needs met and gotten that support. But it's so beautiful that you as his mom get to know him so well and make sure he learned the things he needed to be safe and in a good space to then do the academics. Such a smart move on your part. And I think it sounds obvious, because if your child is harming themselves, that like instinctually you need to make sure that he's safe first. But it can be hard when there's so much pressure to be like, is he learning to do all this academic stuff? And it doesn't matter. All of this other stuff matters first. So I just want to say that first.
Thank you so much for your kind words and your encouragement. I'm so glad that we are out of that space and that we are just in an amazing space now. I really love that you were able to bring your special education children over with you to general ed for several years. You are a remarkable teacher. Thank you for supporting them and their parents. I know their parents felt safe with you. I know the children felt safe with you. I definitely would have. I think I also had to let go of the thought of the type of mom that I would be. I imagine being this soccer mom, member of the PTA, super involved in everything. I'd be bake selling and fundraising, and the type of mom that everyone knew and their children felt safe around me. It was important to note that this feeling wasn't disappointment. It wasn't unmet expectation. It just genuinely was having to unlearn everything I thought I would know about parenting, and a lot of self reflection so that I could meet his needs and be emotionally intelligent enough to help him work through and process some of this stuff. I had a lot to unlearn, and I really literally had to reassemble and redesign what our future was going to look like, because I got real experience during that time of exactly what his diagnosis meant for him with his communication and education, how people perceive him, and how we needed to tackle specific things so that he could walk through the world just a bit lighter with less on his shoulders. And that was a hard time, but everything we did helped launch us to where we are now. To answer your question, how did I learn these techniques? Before he was born, I was actually a PCA, which is an in-home personal care assistant. I had two clients, both autistic with high support needs, some with mobility issues, with various additional disabilities. And I also was a one-to-one in an adult day equestrian training center for autistic adults. Many had very high support needs. And I saw what life looked like as an autistic adult. They range from their 30s to upwards of, our oldest was about 75, the school system radar. And the pool of activities afterwards just falls off a cliff. There's virtually nothing out there. And what is out there is not quality. Simultaneously, parents are aging, siblings are aging, parents are passing away, and now they need to scramble to figure out who is going to care for my child. Is my child going to go to an adult group home? Is my child going to live with a sibling? I just got to see so much. And to be quite honest with you, I saw a lot, and some of it really traumatized me. I didn't know yet that I would be that parent. My son was diagnosed at 3.5. I was still working both those jobs. A typical day for me looked like driving him to school, kicking and screaming. That was the best he could communicate. And just heading to my client's house, I'd have to prepare her breakfast and lunch, make sure she ate, had her medication and drive her to her adult day training program after she was showered and dressed. I would stay with her and be her one-to-one, work with academics, horseback riding, baking, gardening, and attend therapy sessions with her. So I got to witness behavior therapies and physical therapies because I worked closely with the therapist along with my clients. At 2:30, I would head back with her to grab my son from daycare and then drive him 2 hours of therapy after wiping him down because he would be soaked with urine. Then I would drive back to my client's house and get her ready for her evening routine, bathing her, preparing dinner, and getting her ready for bed before racing back to get my son from therapy. Aside from running around, I really didn't have quality time with him. And we were exhausted. He was so dysregulated. So not only was he struggling because of the school, but he was also struggling because he needed me. And I was just racing around, do everything I could while working 2 jobs. He developed selective mutism. He stopped speaking outside the home and never slept through the night. He had horrible night terrors. I battled his insurance and got his therapist to go with him. That was a disaster. The last incident occurred in the school, and it was just like, is this worth it? Am I sacrificing everything that I've learned to care for other people's children? I love everybody that I cared for, but I saw my son withering away and I couldn't anymore. I felt sick every time I dropped him off. I would be sick with worry all day long and anticipate and feel sick with worry before picking him up because I knew he didn't desire to be in this setting. He didn't choose to be in this rat race, and the sacrifice had to be made. Either I would have to stop working and pour everything into him, or I would have to forfeit and let someone else do it. And I saw the job they were doing. And it wasn't going to be enough. In fact, not only was it not going to be enough, but it was causing harm. So, despite all the struggles that we had in the beginning of our homeschooling journey, that was the reason. He had to experience so much without me, without my support. For all I know, in his mind, mom just vanished for hours. Is she coming back? What is happening? Then she drops me off and leaves me with another set of therapists or people who are going to just try to work with him over and over. He was legitimately working a full-time job as a 6-year-old. The hours he was putting in between school and therapies was legitimate, a full-time job. And there was no paycheck involved. In fact, it was depleting. I was sad. I was depressed. I cried. I felt guilty. I felt horrible. And it shattered my heart each day that passed by. And I thought, how on earth are we going to survive on one income while I'm trying to do this? How is this possible? Again, my husband is, we will figure it out. We didn't know anything about homeschooling. That had never crossed my mind. It wasn't on my radar. It wasn't even something that I thought was possible because realistically, then when I did consider looking into homeschooling after I pulled him out, no one looked like me. No one had the experience that I had. It was just some crunchy moms with chickens and farms and homesteading, or very religious groups who decide that, okay, I want to go this route because I don't want the public education putting anything into my son's or child's mind. That just wasn't our journey. We had to do it out of necessity for his whole self, for his little soul, for his laughter, to recoup everything we lost and have to rebuild. And everything I looked up just didn't describe who we were. So who am I? I struggled in school. How the heck am I going to be a homeschool teacher? Am I even equipped for this? And yes, because of my experiences working with autistic adults, what these parents were experiencing and seeing the years that went by and all the things that they did, I got to see some parents who were incredibly involved and really pushed their children. And I got to see where their children ended up. And then I got to see parents who decided my child is not really capable of much because they don't really speak, or they can't really do this, or they can't really do that. After working with her for 5+ years, I set strategies in place. I started those strategies like, you know what? If washing her clothes causes a meltdown because she wants the same pajamas every day, this is so easily avoidable. Let's buy her 5 pairs of pajamas. Let's throw the dirty pajamas up high where she can't reach them so that she doesn't have to sit and wait for hours for it to be washed and dried. And little by little, I implemented different strategies for her shower and for her eating, and her behaviors just diminished and diminished. And it gave me hope. And I see that for him, I must push. And it's okay to push them. It's okay to get comfortable with being incredibly uncomfortable. You're going to have meltdowns. You're going to act out, but I'm also going to be here to hug you, support you, tell you it's okay, and that I believe you are able to do this because I'm your mother. So that if anybody comes to him and says, you're autistic, you're dumb, you can't do this, says who? My mama said I can and I will. And that is what I need for him. That's what I'm trying to instill in him, that he knows that he can, and that his inner monologue is positivity. It's yes, I can. So, this is what a typical homeschooling day looks like for us in our 6th year. We think of 5 goals in the beginning of the year that we want to tackle, that we want to accomplish. And I work with him throughout the entire year to get those goals in motion. They were preparing his clothing and toiletries, preparing his wipes and toothpaste, making his own pancake breakfast, independent toileting skills, getting lotion, dress, deodorant, chapstick, and cologne on. That was our life skills that we were really going to work towards. So a typical day looks like him waking up and preparing his toiletries and his clothing. Once he does that, it's probably around 9 a.m. Now he starts to independently prepare his pancake breakfast. At first, it was me implementing strategies of what would work. We're going to try this jar. Using that jar is too tight. We're going to try this squeeze bottle. I am tweaking everything about this recipe, timing things, putting specific temperatures, and making a list. Once we've tweaked out, we've ironed all the kinks, and now I know exactly what works for him. We can go through the entire routine without much support, then I know he's ready to move. We either go to the gym or the pool for morning exercise, and that really help get our blood flowing, get our brain working, and not in the space of a typical day. So then we get home. And now it's time for him to carry out his toileting routine, his personal hygiene routine. At first, I was supporting him in the bathroom after bowel movements. I would help him, I would wipe him, and then I scaled supports, and then I would assist him in how to wipe. And then I scaled back and I just supervised for a little bit. Then I wrote a list to help him remember the steps. And that got him a little dependent on it. So I said, you know what? Let's implement some counting strategies. We implemented numbers because he is fond of numbers. You're going to grab toilet paper 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it's time to cut. Then you can wipe yourself. We'll do that 4 times. Then you count 2 wipes and get your wipes and wipe yourself with wet cloths, and you can throw that in the garbage. And now he has a specific strategy on how to get clean. Now you're going to turn on the shower. Now you're going to remove your dirty clothes and put them on the floor. This lets you know that they are soiled. And after your shower, you have to put them in the washer. But for your shower, these are the steps. I would have to be outside of the shower with him and literally do modeling. We're going to start with our face, then we're going to scrub our neck, we're going to scrub our arms, our armpits. You're going to do your chest, your privates, your legs. And from there, he can memorize exactly what those steps were. Now I can trust him to use the bathroom, do his personal hygiene routine, his toileting routine, and brush his teeth without me going into the bathroom, because now we are growing his understanding. We are having bigger conversations about bodily autonomy and having privacy. So you don't need me in there because you are an independent brother, as I like to tell him. And you have worked your butt off to implement these strategies for your own personal care. Now he is able to do all those things. So from then on, he gets out of the shower, steps on those clothes. They are wet and dirty. He puts them in the washer. And now it's time to lotion your body, put deodorant on, and put some chapstick on, and put those dirty clothes in the washer. If there's a load that's big enough, then he can help me with measuring the detergent and starting a wash load. And he will help me put them in the dryer once it's time. But now he is dressed, he smells good, he feels good, he had a great day at the gym, a great morning workout, and now it's time to get to the table where we do about 2 hours of a unit study. We might do some reading comprehension. He does some independent reading with a small chapter book or with graphic novels. Then we do some math. Now it's time for lunch. He can assist me in preparing lunch. Now he eats lunch and he helps with washing his dish and emptying his scraps, clearing the table, cleaning the table. And now he has free time. He can play his video games, watch his favorite YouTube videos. His special interest currently is Cesar Millan. He loves Cesar Millan so much. He is a Mexican American dog trainer and is obsessed with dog breeds and dog behaviors. It's always really funny to look into his search history because some of the things he's into just cracks me up. Mind you, he is terrified of dogs in real life, but will spend all day watching dog behavior videos and people training dogs, and it's just the cutest thing. He also will do research. His communication is asking me questions. He is asking me, what does this mean? And he waits for me to answer. And I try to give him the most robust answer that I can, an answer that involves older topics and younger topics and topics for him now so that he can understand. For example, he wanted to go to his grandparents' house on a Friday, and he knows Friday is their date night. Nothing comes in between date night. And we had to let him know, no, it's Friday, it's date night. And so he said, what's a date? And so I told him it's when adults spend quality time together to decide whether they like each other or not. But if they are married, then it's just to spend some really intentional quality time together. And he started doing some research. Somehow on his research, it must have brought him to Tinder. He asked me, what is Tinder? It's an adult dating site where people upload descriptions about themselves and decide whether they want to get to know someone based on the information they have. And so he's okay. And I guess he went over to YouTube and he must have typed in something about dating on YouTube, and that brought him to a couple who does parkour. He started watching this for weeks. They were just flipping off buildings and off ramps, sliding down things. And he was just cracking up. I said, what's so funny? He said, Nana and Pops go on date night and they do parkour. The generalization of him thinking that's what his grandparents are doing on date night is hysterical. In the beginning, we were working so hard. We homeschooled Monday through Friday. And it was like, why are we doing all of this? He obviously gets exhausted midweek and he needs more time. And so it made sense to remove Friday. And so now we do only Monday through Thursday. Friday is reserved for our movie days, our field trips, or just a mental health day if we just want to relax. And that has been a huge game changer for us. It really gives him rest and time to recover. And it gives us a 3-day weekend every single week. It also teaches him the importance of prioritizing his mental state, his mental health. We use Friday to assess where we are in the week, how we're feeling, what we want to do differently, if we want to do anything differently. But to be honest with you, when I tell you we are taking the scenic route, I can look up and I can see the flowers and I can smell them, and we are just enjoying this. It feels like I'm on a gondola now. We're just cruising. We have our rhythm and we know each other through and through. It came with a lot of self reflection and a lot of self awareness and apologizing to him when I fell short. I would say, I didn't handle the situation properly. I'm sorry if that hurt your feelings. If it didn't, I'm still sorry, because I should have been more intentional with you. I should have handled the situation and handled you and your emotions better than that. And I'm going to do my best to do better. I come from a Haitian household, okay? When I tell you I've never heard an apology in my life, I don't even think I would know what to do with one. It would just make me uncomfortable. But not him. And the realization that I am breaking generational curses and arming him with the tools of recognizing how I ought to be treated. This is how I ought to be treated. And anything that strays left or right from how mom treats me, then I know red flag. He'll be able to pinpoint and identify and to express what it is that he didn't like. We are practicing confrontation using these illustrated children's books, or I am prompting him to have conflict with me so that we can have conflict resolution. I see that your body is wiggling all over the place. I understand that the energy I'm getting from you is frustration. What are you frustrated about? And I will start off by giving him the beginning of that script. Mom, I am upset with you because, and I pause and I wait and I listen. And he will say, you did not hear me, or you did not listen, or you said no. And all of the language that he has currently at 12 years old is the language that I put into him, word by word, phrase by phrase. I literally built his communication, reminding myself to continuously foster new language and more mature language is going to go with him as he gets older. He is going to take these phrases and he is going to be using them on other people so that other people can get to know him and what his likes and dislikes are. Through learning each other and learning what works for him, it was just a combination of what I've learned through having the experiences with the autistic adults, their families, their parents, as well as just getting to know him personally. I joke with people that I am his IEP, but I quite literally am his IEP. I am the walking, talking document. I'm the entire board. I am the one who's designing what we need to tackle next, what's going to propel him to this level, and how do we get from point A to point B. It was a learning experience for us both. What was working, continue on that path. What isn't working, throw that out. I had to learn to be flexible so I could design this thing from the ground up. It was a mixture of everything, but I truly feel as though God was literally preparing me for this role my entire life, which is odd to say because in that moment, even though I felt that, it just felt hard. But now I see what you did there. God has jokes.
Natasha, I got chills multiple times listening to your last voice notes, starting with you saying explicitly that you had to let go of the type of mom that you thought you would be. When I first started teaching, one of the things that I learned was that we all have archetypes, our people, roles in our lives, the way in which we think it should be. Like an archetype of a teacher, we feel like a teacher should be one way, an archetype of a doctor. We have this idea of how that person should be. Until just now, I hadn't thought about what is my archetype of a mom? Who do I think a mom should be? Usually the archetype is like a good mom, a good teacher. What is the archetype of that person? So I'm definitely gonna reflect on that. Do I have an outdated archetype or a unachievable archetype in my head that I'm like striving towards? I appreciate you sharing that. And that's hard, right? We have this vision of what our life is going to be, and when it changes, it can be hard. One thing you mentioned was you have created this life for your son that he can walk through the world a little bit lighter. That's so beautiful. I appreciate you sharing your story about how life has prepared you for the moments you have gone through with your son and how hard it was at times having a lack of quality time because you're just racing around and caring for other people's children and other people. And it can be hard because I know for me, and I assume for you, it's just like we really care about people and we want to help. You have to be selfish sometimes. You are sacrificing your time with your son and what you could give to him to give to other people. Selfishness has this negative connotation that it's bad to be selfish. Sometimes it's actually a good thing to be selfish, even just through this podcast. And I know there's so much more that you're doing and will do to help people, but even just through this being shared with people, like you are helping people because you were selfish and helped your son. So it's not a bad thing. And I've gotten comments on my social media. It's such a privilege that you can homeschool. And actually, sometimes it's a sacrifice that I can homeschool. We're going down to 2 incomes, and there's a lot that is hard to homeschool. And you're sometimes making a sacrifice that if you weren't homeschooling, it'd be easier. I just want to give you a huge hug after everything you shared, or maybe go back 6 years and give you a hug then when you were making this decision to take the leap and be a mom plus a homeschool mom for your son, because I know it's hard to be selfish sometimes.
Come on, Cologne. Come on, morning workouts. Come on, taking the scenic route. I am here for all of this and for all that it is teaching your son. Like, goals. Hashtag goals. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed that Cologne is a part of his routine and that morning workouts are a part of his routine. Like, just living a healthy life and smelling good. I'm obsessed. I love this so much and I'm cracking up. I don't even know, honestly. I don't know what it is, what you said is in terms of the like flipping off the buildings. I don't even remember the name of it. I don't even know that. And he knows what that is. But that's hilarious that he's just picturing his grandparents going on date nights and flipping off the buildings. Hilarious. I think that as homeschooling parents in general, people in general, like we are doing too much. And you talking about this is what when you were like, I'm taking the scenic route, I can smell the roses. Like I think it's what you said. I'm probably forgetting. Like you're just taking everything in and enjoying things. And I think sometimes we're all just doing too much and going so fast that we don't stop to enjoy. And yeah, you're amazing. Okay, so you said you joke that your child's IEP, and for folks who don't know what IEP is, IEP stands for Individualized Education Plan or Program. I always used to mess it up. One or the other. I think it's program. But it's so funny because like essentially that's what you are. Like you are giving your child a fully individualized plan for his needs, and the IEPs in schools set out with the goal to do that, which is really hard when you're not one to one. But when you're one to one like you are, you really can do it. And so I would love to know, do you actually have an IEP of your own? Are you writing down plans, and what does that look like? You mentioned how you understand his needs and how they shift, right? Like when he masters one thing, you're going to move to the next. Or if he's having more challenges, you described like specific situations where if he's having challenges with something, you have to model it first and you might have to reteach or rework. Like, do you have any specific planning process or reflection process that's helping you to determine and actually create the plan for him?
When he is joining a new program to help the staff better understand who he is and what his needs are. In designing the goals, I have to work backwards. I think of the big picture, the future goal. We do not have an IEP currently, but we don't really need one. I do write them. I have to almost disassemble every aspect of it so that I could teach it in a way that makes sense to him. I have to be mindful that the executive functioning steps that come naturally for us must be taught step by step to him. The goal is always to expand on what I have currently taught him already. He is assisting me in cooking and he will make a few meals. Next, I will talk him through the steps. Then I will start to scale back my supports until he is able to carry out that recipe and do it himself. In the future, the goals we will continue expanding. So it will look like him being able to budget, write a grocery list, grocery shop, pay, food prep, cook, properly store his food and food safety. And the goal is to close the gaps of support until he can independently carry out a few hours and a few days, weeks, months, years, a decade. So that way I am preparing him in the future where I can scale back support and know that he can care for himself.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. I have one last question, and then I will open it up to you for anything that we didn't get to discuss that you want to share before we end. So I'll give you time to talk about anything you might want people to check out that you have, or where to follow you or get in touch, that type of thing. But my last question is, what would your biggest piece of advice, let's go with a homeschooling mom who is wanting to homeschool their child, and specifically a autistic child, someone like a mom who they're just worried, maybe they're you 6 years ago, they're nervous about what homeschooling might look like, overwhelmed by all that it might take. So what's your biggest piece of advice? What would you tell them, or what do you tell them? I'm sure you maybe talked to a mom like this before. So, what has your previous piece of advice been for them? Let's go there and then we'll close out.
My advice would definitely be to be incredibly organized, like a well oiled routine. Invite your child into the conversations, the planning process of their own education. Tackle their mental, physical, emotional, sensory, educational, and spiritual needs as a whole. Stop what you're doing if something isn't working and don't be afraid to tweak things. Prioritize health and rest and recovery when necessary. Use visual tools, timers, visual boards, calendars, prompt them, help them. You can give them steps or write down things to help them remember. Listen to full body communication. Set goals yearly and help them work towards those goals daily. Be flexible and modify. Tell them that you love them and how proud you are of them and for the hard work that they're doing. Take time off, go on outings, go on field trips, celebrate them and celebrate yourself. I know that sometimes this journey of autism homeschooling can be isolating. Isolating sometimes if you don't find your community as a homeschooler, and it's almost double that for an autism homeschooler. I implore you to keep looking for your village, and I hope that you do find it. But remain encouraged and keep your feet on the ground and keep doing the hard work, because soon you will look up and they will be 18 years old. It's amazing how fast it's going and also heartbreaking, because just looking at his little face grow and looking at his height, we're almost looking each other in the eye now. When we started this journey, he could barely hold a pencil. So being along with him through every single step that he is learning to care for himself and become this amazing, responsible young man, watching him become this funny, kind, empathetic, handsome, brilliant young man is beautiful to see. And I have had a hand in that. My husband has had a hand in that process as he grows and as we continue this journey of learning together. I hope that one day he remembers all the amazing time we've spent together. Can I just tell you how much I've enjoyed this? Just chatting with you has been amazing. When I first spoke to you, the first thing I did was thank you for inviting me into this space. Many times, as an autism homeschooler, we try different groups and it just doesn't work out. The expectations of what he needs to do, he just is not yet capable of doing. He needs my supports. And if certain programs do not allow me to provide him with the supports he needs, then that option is not an option. Therefore, it is not inclusion. It is continuously searching for spaces in which he can be himself and I can be his support system as he needs it in every season. So I just want to thank you for your role as a special education educator. You have really brought us into the fold and allowed us to share our stories and our hardships and our celebrations with other parents. And thank you for thinking of us and giving us a voice. We truly appreciate it, and it's been a blast. I hope that your homeschooling journey is full of amazing adventures. Thank you so much. My final piece of advice is that if you do choose to do this and you choose to be intentional, know that you can do this. You are capable of doing this. Know that this journey is a paradox. Everything is interconnected, and I am teaching him basic life skills while I'm also looking into his future legal rights. Will he be independent? Do I have to petition for guardianship, a supported decision making agreement, power of attorney, or a healthcare proxy? I don't know what the future is like. While I know that he is growing and his future can look a number of many ways, I still have that thought in the back of my mind. They coexist with our celebrations and his growth. Homeschooling doesn't stop me from having these worries and fears of the future, but it does provide me with more time so that I can better prepare him for what life has in store. Teach them at their pace, meet them where they are right now. My son is entering the seventh grade this fall. However, we are still using a third grade math book and a fourth grade reading comprehension book. What matters is that he is showing up daily with a positive attitude, ready to try his best. So don't be afraid to toss grade levels out the window if that is what is necessary to build their confidence and to help them along. If you head over to Amazon and type in Differently Together book series, Natasha Flowers, NATASHA in the search bar, you will find our 10 book series that I wrote, and it is titled Differently Together. Each title is about our family's experiences navigating autism, social anxiety, communication difficulties, forming friendships and relationships, pen paling, sensory challenges, learning to self regulate, homeschooling, and about our journey raising monarch butterflies. This really chronicled our experiences and some of our hardships, but in a sweet, kind way. He got to see himself as a character, and we got to share our experiences. So definitely check out our book series. You can find us on TikTok under Homeschooling Autistic Son, and you can find us on Instagram under Homeschooling Activities. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our story.
Awesome. If you're listening, definitely go follow Natasha and connect with her there. Thank you again, Natasha. This has been such a good conversation. I really love chatting, and I'm excited to stay in touch. This Voxer message is not closing, so feel free to reach out at any point and keep doing amazing things with your homeschool. Bye.